Violet here, and I wanted to talk about the books, like my favorite books from the back half of 2025. So I did one for like up through June, and so I thought I should round out the list and talk about my faves from the back half of the year. So let's get into it. So I do not have as many from this round as I did the last round. I only have 5, but I do think these 5 are worth talking about. So the first one I have is Her Perfect Pirate by Katherine Grant. This is part of her Northfield Hall novella series, which is a bit of a spin-off of her Preston series. So the setup of the Preston / Northfield Hall is that the Baron basically realizes that colonization is bad, imperialism is terrible, and so he has tried to build his estate to not only be welcoming to people of various races, sexualities, etc., also to be self-sufficient and self-sustaining, so that he is not contributing to the imperialist machine that is Britain. So, our hero of this book, Sharkhead Chow, is the son of this, I believe they're Chinese family that lived and works at Northfield Hall. So he went off to find himself and ended up becoming a pirate, as you do. And there is a young woman named Rebecca Smith. She is also Asian of some kind, but she's also East Asian, and may be biracial. I can't quite recall at this point. So she ends up finding her way onto the ship because she has heard that the captain of the ship is like a guy who goes after slave ships, and so she believes he will be more honorable, etc., etc. When she gets there, turns out that the pirate crew is still pirating, and these are more historically accurate pirates, so, like, they're really not great about women. And Sharkhead, basically to shield her from things, is like, she's my wife. And that ends, so they are fake married, and then that relationship starts to turn a little bit real as they get real feelings. This book is serious. It is kind of heavy for the novella that it is. It does not shy away from the realities of pirates at the time. And the main sort of plot involves Sharkhead kind of ending up butting heads with the captain of the ship, who is a black pirate who goes after slavers, but is maybe not as noble as he should be. And so it's a lot about that tension and then them being into each other, and they are great together. They have a really great chemistry. The stakes feel really high. The world feels really immersive. I'd read some Katherine Grants before that I had, like, okay feelings on, but this was just, like, absolutely perfect for me. Just, like, one of those pitch perfect historical romance novellas. So, yeah, would highly recommend. Okay, and then we have, like, a real classic historical moment, Scandal Wears Satin by Loretta Chase, which I will show off the gorgeous step back to. Oh yeah. Look at them. Okay, so this is the second book in the Dressmaker series. The first one is Silk is for Seduction is the first one. So yes, this is the second book. This is the Noiro sisters are dressmakers who basically want to be the best dressmakers and the most famous and successful dressmakers in the world. And they are a little Machiavellian, a little amoral in their pursuits, if you will. So, in the first book, I think her name is Marianne, is going after, basically trying to get the diamond of the season to, and the diamond of the season's intended ends up being Marianne's love interest, but they do end up getting the diamond of the season, this beautiful, blonde, very wealthy heiress, and so In this one, that heiress's brother is the Earl of Clevedon, who is, or Earl of Longmore, whose name is Clevedon. And he has noticed Sophie because Sophie has a tendency to put herself in disguises and go to parties to see what's going on in the fashion world. And he's like, hang on, is that lady who was at this other place? I'm like, what's her deal? And then he finds out and he's like enamored with this slightly amoral hyper-capitalist dressmaker. And so he's very into her. And she's like, what am I going to do with the Lord? This is nothing for me. But what happens is that the sister, the diamond, she gets compromised and then she runs away. And we cannot have that because if she's gone, their like primary client is gone, and like and then what are they gonna do? So they have to track her down, and Sophie has to go with Clevedon, and so and then they're together road tripping, and then and it's all sexy, and they want to be together, and they're in a carriage a lot. And there's a lot of great moments here. The best part of this book, in my opinion, is the third act swell to deal with the Diamond character's ruination. And Sophie has to put on a performance in a way that made me delighted and giddy. It almost feels like a heist novel at the back end of how she is pulling everything together, and it's great. And I think the reason I loved this is that Clevedon he's kind of a dandy, in that, like, his life is very charmed and he doesn't have to normally deal with anything, and now suddenly he has, like, problems to deal with, and he's like, I don't want to deal with this, but I will deal with it. And also, he is delighted by Sophie being the, like, amoral, slightly monstrous woman that she is. He is so charmed by it. And I just, as someone who also supports women's rights and women's wrongs, it's nice to see that reflected in a guy sometimes. So, yes, Scandal Wears Satin, delightful book. So much fun. All right, next we have Amaryllis by Jane Castle, also known as Jane Ann Krentz, or Amanda Quick, or Stephanie James, or I think I'm missing like 3 of her pen names over time. There's like an Amanda in there or something. Anyway, Amaryllis. This is the first book in her St. Helens series, which is, speculative, like slightly sci-fi, paranormal romantic suspense. So, the setting is that St. Helens was a planet that was colonized by Earth, and then the portal between Earth and this planet eroded. And then a lot of the resources that we brought also started to erode, so they had to sort of rebuild everything to fit this planet's infrastructure. So these are humans, but there's like slight sci-fi tech happening. And so that's like the basic setting. Also, that a lot of people in this world have psychic abilities. You either are like a talent, which means that you have, you can like create illusions, or you have hyper math powers or whatever. And then you have prisms, who are these people who can focus the powers of the talents. So there are scales to talents and there are scales to prisms. And so our heroine is named Amaryllis. Amaryllis Lark. She is a prism, a very high-powered prism. And our hero, Lucas Trent, is a very high-powered talent, in fact, off the charts. And they end up getting thrown together because he hires her to be a prism for some corporate investigation stuff he's doing into his own company. He's like a billionaire, because of course he's a billionaire. And then there's a murder that happens more in her neck of the woods, in the sort of academia realm. And she's like, what happened there? And so she's trying to solve this murder, and he is irritated that she's trying to solve this murder, but is also helping her solve the murder. And it's great. It's so fun. They are both like hyper competent, and they're both very business oriented. They are also both, this was a world that has matchmaking in it, and so they are both trying to enter the matchmaking market with mixed success, even though they are falling in love and they don't think they're going to be able to matchmake each other. So it was just like, this was like camping over the top and just really, really fun, super fast paced. I laughed a lot. It was just like a book I just was so excited to get back to when I could. And yeah, really delightful. I've read a lot of Jane Ann Krentz in various pen names at this point, and she has the sauce. What can I say? Then we have Fan Service by Rosie Danan. This came out this year, I believe, or last year, I guess 2025. It is a paranormal romance with, I'd say, very contemporary leanings. So, there is this television show that is on the TW network that was about a werewolf detective solving crimes and getting into magical shenanigans. And so the heroine was a diehard fan of this show for the 13 seasons it lasted, right? She ends up going to this fan convention and meeting the actor who plays the werewolf, and he is, let's see, her names. So Alex and Devin. So Alex, our heroine, she goes when's like a teenager to this fan convention and meets Devin, and he's very nice to her at first, and like they take a picture. She asks him some really awkward questions, and then she like forgets her picture and she comes back and she hears him talking to like the photographer and like making fun of her. So she is devastated by this. She hates Devin Ashwood now. But she also runs the fandom wiki for the show. And she decides to keep doing it even after she hears him like insult her behind her back, right? So cut to 10 years later or whatever, after the show's gone off the air, Devin Ashwood his career stalled after this. And like there's this night like that happened recently that he blacked out and he can't remember, and he like woke up in the backyard and that was weird. And then all of a sudden it seems like Devin Ashwood, the human man, might be turning into a werewolf. And this is really bad for his career. Like, you can't come back as a werewolf. So what is he to do but to track down the fandom moderator for his show, because the symptoms he had are very similar to the show, and to track her down and hire her to help him deal with the werewolf problem. Now, Alex is like, am I getting punked? What is happening here? And then starts to realize, hang on, he might be turning into a werewolf. And then she's like, oh, he's a werewolf. Oh dear. So not only is she the moderator of the site, she's also a vet tech. So she's able to try and help him with the werewolf problem. Because the werewolf problem is a pretty big thing. And they fall in love. And this book is for anyone who got really into CW shows between like 2005 and 2020. Basically the entire time Supernatural was on, if you were into a CW show, then this book is for you, okay? There are so many pinpoint specific fandom references that I am convinced Rosie Danan was on Tumblr in 2016. Like, it's so clear. I often get a little worried when you have, like, fanish books that, like, it feels, like, condescending or insulting or just, like, not accurate. This book is so accurate. And it's also so accurate to CW shows and the discourse around them and the queer baiting and just the actors' reactions to it. Just so many things. And also is, like, this really great... It's sort of Grumpy Sunshine, though I would argue Grumpy Himbo. Alex is really grumpy. She's bisexual in this backwards Florida town, trying her best. And Devin is, like, kind of not the most emotionally aware guy ever, and was a child actor, so just really out of touch with, like, everything. And So there's a lot of points where he wonders, and sometimes it's funny and sometimes it's sad, and it's really interesting, very sexy, just great. Like, this book brought me so much joy in so many ways, and I think it was just really interesting and evocative. And I think it is a paranormal, but it is a paranormal that does not feel like Immortals After Dark or something like that. And not to say that there's anything wrong with those, but I do think if you are someone who is reading modern contemporaries, your Abby Jimenez's or something like that, and you're not sure about paranormal, I think this book would be a really a good launching point to like dip your toe in a little bit, because it's light paranormal, right? So yeah, really, really enjoyed fan service. Thought it was wonderful. And finally, we have A Gentleman's Gentleman by T.J. Alexander. So this is about Lord Christopher Eden, who is an earl, 24-year-old earl, who is facing a bit of a dilemma. On his 25th birthday, if he is not married, he will lose his title and all of his fortune. So it's fine, he should just get married. Slight problem, Christopher is a trans man. So marriage is a little more complicated for him to manage, you know? But he's determined to go into town to find himself a wife. But in order to do that, he's going to need a valet, in order to, you know, move about town and look like a normal guy. So enter James Harding, who is tall and kind of severe and hot, and is like, no, I should, like, be, like, dressing you, etc., and, like, I'm supposed to be doing normal valet things, and Christopher's like, no, you don't get to touch me or see me or anything, and I'm annoyed that you're hot, but, I'm gonna ignore it. And so, they go to town, Christopher tries to enter the marriage mart a little bit, and things sort of go from there. There is, I think, something that I've found really fun about reading old school or older historical romances, even if they weren't bodice rippers. Most of the ones I've read are not bodice rippers, is I feel like there is a sense of boldness, of audacity, of swinging for the fences, ambition, I guess. Sometimes I feel like when I read modern historicals, I think historicals sort of painted themselves into a corner in some ways, and I think that especially happened when we got more and more choked into Regency specifically. This is part of why I actually made the Broadening Your Historical Romance Horizons challenge, was like to force myself to read out of the Regency more. And I think this book is not an old school at all, but I think when you have a hero a lead character, protagonist, who is a trans man, you inherently have to go out of the box, right? You have to think out of the box. You have to go for something else. The ending of this book is bold and brash and pushing for an HEA outside of the bounds of what I normally think Regency's doing. So I'm trying to not spoil it, but yeah, and there is a plot twist near the end of this that is wonderful. The third act breakup is the exact sort of thing I feel like you can only do with a book like this. And yeah, just really great, really great. I really liked Christopher a lot. The point of view choices here are so smart. There's like some really fun parts in the middle, and then we get really into like the heavy hitting stuff at the end, and it's just wonderful. So yeah, Gentleman's Gentleman, genuinely great book, very interesting, very evocative, and I think just really, like, yeah, you know, historicals can do more than they do a lot of the time. So yeah. So those were my favorite books from the back half of the year. Yeah, I'm excited to see what will hit in the new year for me, what will hit in 2026. So yeah, thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you all later. Bye!